Welcome back to our journey through the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. This is the seventh part of our series, focusing on the Viduragamana Parva, Rajya-labha Parva, and Arjuna-vanavasa Parva in Adi Parva, Volume 1. Viduragamana Parva. The Viduragamana Parva details the arrival of Vidura, the wise and righteous advisor of the Kuru dynasty, to Hastinapura. This section emphasizes Vidura's role as a mediator and counselor amidst the growing tension between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Key highlights of this section include Vidura's diplomacy, Vidura's attempts to maintain peace and his wise counsel to both sides. The return of the Pandavas. The return of the Pandavas to Hastinapura after their exile, marking a pivotal moment in the story. Rajya-labha Parva. The Rajya-labha Parva focuses on the Pandavas' return to power and the establishment of their rule. This section highlights the political maneuvers and the events that lead to the Pandavas regaining their kingdom. Key highlights of this section include the coronation of Yudhishthira as the king and the subsequent prosperity of their kingdom. Political intrigues. The various political machinations and alliances that shape their rule. Arjuna-vanavasa Parva. The Arjuna-vanavasa Parva narrates the exile of Arjuna. Arjuna voluntarily leaves the kingdom for a period of 12 years as a part of the conditions set after the game of dice. Key highlights of this section include Arjuna's adventures, the adventures and exploits of Arjuna during his exile, including his acquisition of powerful weapons and alliances. Celestial encounters. Arjuna's encounters with various celestial beings, enriching his character and abilities. As you listen to these sections, immerse yourself in the complex dynamics of power, diplomacy, and adventure. The Viduragamana Parva, Rajya-labha Parva, and Arjuna-vanavasa Parva not only drive the narrative forward, but also explore the themes of duty, righteousness, and the pursuit of justice. Viduragamana Parva. Vaisampayana said, "The news was carried unto all the monarchs who had come to the self-choice of Draupadi by their trusted spies that the handsome Draupadi had been united in marriage with the sons of Pandu. And they were also informed that the illustrious hero who had bent the bow and shot the mark was none else than Arjuna, that foremost of victorious warriors and first of all wielders of the bow and arrows. And it became known that the mighty warrior who had dashed Salya, the king of Madra, on the ground, and who in wrath had terrified the assembled monarchs by means of the tree he had uprooted, and who had taken his stand before all foes in perfect fearlessness, was none else than Bhima, that feller of hostile ranks, whose touch alone was sufficient to take the lives out of all foes. The monarchs, upon being informed that the Pandavas had assumed the guise of peaceful Brahmanas, wondered much. They even heard that Kunti, with all her sons, had been burnt to death in the conflagration of the house of Lak. They therefore now regarded the Pandavas in the light of persons who had come back from the region of the dead. And recollecting the cruel scheme contrived by Purachana, they began to say, "Oh, fie on Bhishma, fie on Dhritarashtra of the Kuru race." After the self-choice was over, all the monarchs who had come thither, hearing that Draupadi had been united with the Pandavas, set out for their own dominions, and Duryodhana, hearing that Draupadi had selected the owner of white steeds, Arjuna, as her lord, became greatly depressed. Accompanied by his brothers, Aswathaman, his uncle, Sakuni, Karna and Kripa, the prince set out with a heavy heart for his capital. Then Dusasana, blushing with shame, addressed his brother softly and said, "If Arjuna had not disguised himself as a Brahmana, he could never have succeeded in obtaining Draupadi. It was for this disguise, O king, that no one could recognize him as Dhananjaya. Fate, I ween, is ever supreme. Exertion is fruitless. Fie on our exertions, O brother. The Pandavas are still alive." Speaking unto one another thus, and blaming Purachana for his carelessness, They then entered the city of Hastinapura with cheerless and sorrowful hearts. Beholding the mighty sons of Pritha, escaped from the burning house of Lak and allied with Drupada, and thinking of Drishtadyumna and Sikandin and the other sons of Drupada all accomplished in fight, they were struck with fear and overcome with despair. Then Vidura, having learnt that Draupadi had been won by the Pandavas and that the sons of Dhritarashtra had come back to Hastinapura in shame, their pride humiliated, became filled with joy. And, O king, approaching Dhritarashtra, Kshatri said, "The Kurus are prospering by good luck." Hearing those words of Vidura, the son of Vichitravirya, wondering, said in great glee, "What good luck, O Vidura! What good luck!" From ignorance, the blind monarch understood that his eldest son Duryodhana had been chosen by Drupada's daughter as her lord, and the king immediately ordered various ornaments to be made for Draupadi. And he commanded that both Draupadi and his son Duryodhana should be brought with pomp to Hastinapura. It was then that Vidura told the monarch that Draupadi had chosen the Pandavas for her lords, and that those heroes were all alive and at peace, and that they had been received with great respect by King Drupada. And he also informed Dhritarashtra that the Pandavas had been united with the many relatives and friends of Drupada, each owning large armies, and with many others who had come to that self-choice. Hearing these words of Vidura, Dhritarashtra said, "Those children are to me as dear as they were to Pandu. Nay, more. Oh, listen to me why my affection for them now is even greater. The heroic sons of Pandu are well and at ease. They have obtained many friends. Their relatives and others whom they have gained as allies are all endued with great strength. Who amongst monarchs in prosperity or adversity would not like to have Drupada with his relatives as an ally?" Vaisampayana continued, "Having heard these words of the monarch, Vidura said, 'O king, let thy understanding remain so without change for 100 years. Having said this, Vidura returned to his own abode. Then, O monarch, there came unto Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, and the son of Radha, Karna. Addressing the monarch, they said, "We cannot, O king, speak of any transgression in the presence of Vidura. We have now found thee alone, and will therefore say all we like. What is this that thou hast, O monarch, desired to do? Dost thou regard the prosperity of thy foes as if it were thy own, that thou hast been applauding the Pandavas, O foremost of men, in the presence of Vidura? O sinless one, thou actest not, O king, in the way thou shouldst. O father, we should now act every day in such a way as to weaken the strength of the Pandavas. The time hath come, O father, for us to take counsel together, so that the Pandavas may not swallow us all with our children and friends and relatives." Vaisampayana said, Dhritarashtra replied, saying, "I desire to do exactly what you would recommend, but I do not wish to inform Vidura of it even by a change of muscle. It was therefore, O son, that I was applauding the Pandavas in Vidura's presence, so that he might not know even by a sign what is in my mind. Now that Vidura hath gone away, this is the time, O Suyodhana, Duryodhana, for telling me what thou hast hit upon, and what, O Radheya, Karna, thou too hast hit upon." Duryodhana said, "Let us, O father, by means of trusted and skillful and adroit brahmanas, seek to produce dissensions between the sons of Kunti and Madri. Or, let King Drupada and his sons, and all his ministers of state, be plied with presents of large wealth, so that they may abandon the cause of Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti. Or, let our spies induce the Pandavas to settle in Drupada's dominions, by describing to them, separately, the inconvenience of residing in Hastinapura, so that, separated from As, they may permanently settle in Panchala. Or, let some clever spies, full of resources, sowing the seeds of dissension among the Pandavas, make them jealous of one another. Or, let them incite Krishna against her husbands. She has many lords, and this will not present any difficulty. Or, let some seek to make the Pandavas themselves dissatisfied with Krishna, in which case Krishna also will be dissatisfied with them. Or, let, O king, some clever spies repairing thither secretly compass the death of Bhimasena. Bhima is the strongest of them all. Relying upon Bhima alone, the Pandavas used to disregard us of old. Bhima is fierce and brave and the sole refuge of the Pandavas. If he be slain, the others will be deprived of strength and energy. Deprived of Bhima, who is their sole refuge, they will no longer strive to regain their kingdom. Arjuna, O king, is invincible in battle, if Bhima protecteth him from behind. Without Bhima, Arjuna is not equal to even a fourth part of Radheya. Indeed, O king, the Pandavas, conscious of their own feebleness without Bhima, and of our strength, would not really strive to recover the kingdom. Or, if, O monarch, coming hither, they prove docile and obedient to us, we would then seek to repress them according to the dictates of political science, as explained by Kanika. Or, we may tempt them by means of handsome girls, upon which the princess of Panchala will get annoyed with them. Or, O Radheya, let messengers be dispatched to bring them hither, so that, when arrived, we may, through trusted agents, by some of the above methods, cause them to be slain. Strive, O Father, to employ any of these various methods that may appear to thee faultless. Time passeth. Before their confidence in King Drupada, that bull amongst kings, is established, we may succeed, O monarch, to encounter them. But after their confidence hath been established in Drupada, we are sure to fail. These, O Father, are my views for the discomfiture of the Pandavas. Judge whether they be good or bad. What, O Karna, dost thou think? Vaisampayana said, thus addressed by Duryodhana, Karna said, It doth not seem to me, O Duryodhana, that thy reasoning is well-founded. O perpetuator of the Kuru race, no method will succeed against the Pandavas. O brave prince, thou hast before, by various subtle means, striven to carry out thy wishes, but ever hast thou failed to slay thy foes. They were then living near thee, O king. They were then unfledged and of tender years, but thou couldst not injure them then. They are now living at a distance, grown up, full-fledged. The sons of Kunti, O thou of firm resolution, cannot now be injured by any subtle contrivances of thine. This is my opinion, as they are aided by the very fates, and as they are desirous of regaining their ancestral kingdom, we can never succeed in injuring them by any means in our power. It is impossible to create disunion amongst them. They can never be disunited who have all taken to a common wife. Nor can we succeed in estranging Krishna from the Pandavas by any spies of ours. She chose them as her lords when they were in adversity. Will she abandon them now that they are in prosperity? Besides, women always like to have many husbands. Krishna hath obtained her wish. She can never be estranged from the Pandavas. The king of Panchala is honest and virtuous. He is not avaricious. Even if we offer him our whole kingdom, he will not abandon the Pandavas. Drupada's son also possesseth every accomplishment, and is attached to the Pandavas. Therefore, I do not think that the Pandavas can now be injured by any subtle means in thy power. But, O bull amongst men, this is what is good and advisable for us now, viz., to attack and smite them till they are exterminated. Let this course recommend itself to thee. As long as our party is strong and that of the king of the Panchalas is weak, so long strike them without any scruple. O son of Gandhari, as long as their innumerable vehicles and animals, friends, and friendly tribes are not mustered together, continue, O king, to exhibit thy prowess. As long as the king of the Panchalas, together with his sons gifted with great prowess, setteth not his heart upon fighting with us, so long, O king, exhibit thy prowess. And, O king, exert thy prowess before he of the Vrishni race, Krishna, cometh with the Yadava host into the city of Drupada, carrying everything before him. to restore the Pandavas to their paternal kingdom. Wealth. Every article of enjoyment, kingdom. There is nothing that Krishna may not sacrifice for the sake of the Pandavas. The illustrious Bharata had acquired the whole earth by his prowess alone. Indra hath acquired sovereignty of the three worlds by prowess alone. O king, prowess is always applauded by the Kshatriyas. O bull amongst Kshatriyas, prowess is the cardinal virtue of the brave. Let us therefore, O monarch, with our large army consisting of 4 kinds of forces, grind Drupada without loss of time, and bring hither the Pandavas. Indeed, the Pandavas are incapable of being discomfited by any policy of conciliation, of gift, of wealth and bribery, or of disunion. Vanquish them therefore by thy prowess. And vanquishing them by thy prowess, rule thou this wide earth. O monarch, I see not any other means by which we may accomplish our end. Vaisampayana continued. Hearing these words of Radheya, Dhritarashtra, endued with great strength, applauded him highly. The monarch then addressed him and said, Thou, O son of a suitor, art gifted with great wisdom and accomplished in arms. This speech, therefore, favouring the exhibition of prowess, suiteth thee well. But let Bhishma and Drona and Vidura and you two take counsel together and adopt that proposal which may lead to our benefit. Vaisampayana continued. Then King Dhritarashtra called unto him all those celebrated ministers and took counsel with them. Vaisampayana said, Asked by Dhritarashtra to give his opinion, Bhishma replied, O Dhritarashtra, a quarrel with the Pandavas is what I can never approve of. As thou art to me, so was Pandu without doubt, and the sons of Gandhari are to me, as those of Kunti. I should protect them as well as I should thy sons, O Dhritarashtra. And O king, the Pandavas are as much near to me as they are to Prince Duryodhana or to all the other Kurus. Under these circumstances, a quarrel with them is what I never like. Concluding a treaty with those heroes, let half the land be given unto them. This is without doubt the paternal kingdom of those foremost ones of the Kuru race. And, O Duryodhana, like thee who lookest upon this kingdom as thy paternal property, the Pandavas also look upon it as their paternal possession. If the renowned sons of Pandu obtain not the kingdom, how can it be thine, or that of any other descendant of the Bharata race? If thou regardest thyself as one that hath lawfully come into the possession of the kingdom, I think they also may be regarded to have lawfully come into the possession of this kingdom before thee. Give them half the kingdom quietly. This, O tiger among men, is beneficial to all. If thou actest otherwise, evil will befall us all. Thou too shall be covered with dishonor. O Duryodhana, strive to maintain thy good name. A good name is indeed the source of one's strength. It hath been said that one liveth in vain whose reputation hath gone. A man, O Kaurava, doth not die so long as his fame lasteth. One liveth as long as one's fame endureth, and dieth when one's fame is gone. Follow thou, O son of Gandhari, the practice that is worthy of the Kuru race. O thou of mighty arms, imitate thy own ancestors. We are fortunate that the Pandavas have not perished. We are fortunate that Kunti liveth. We are fortunate that the wretch Purachana, without being able to accomplish his purpose, hath himself perished. From that time when I heard that the sons of Kuntiboja's daughter had been burnt to death, I was, O son of Gandhari, ill able to meet any living creature. O tiger among men, hearing of the fate that overtook Kunti, the world doth not regard Purachana so guilty as it regardeth thee. O king, the escape, therefore, of the sons of Pandu with life from that conflagration and their reappearance, do away with thy evil repute. Know, O thou of Kuru's race, that as long as those heroes live, the wielder of the thunder himself cannot deprive them of their ancestral share in the kingdom. The Pandavas are virtuous and united. They are being wrongly kept out of their equal share in the kingdom. If thou shouldst act rightly, if thou shouldst do what is agreeable to me, if thou shouldst seek the welfare of all, then give half the kingdom unto them. Vaisampayana said. After Bhishma had concluded, Drona spoke, saying, O King Dhritarashtra, it hath been heard by us that friends summoned for consultation should always speak what is right, true, and conducive to fame. O sire, I am of the same mind in this matter with the illustrious Bhishma. Let a share of the kingdom be given unto the Pandavas. This is eternal virtue. Send, O Bharata, unto Drupada, without loss of time, some messenger of agreeable speech, carrying with him a large treasure for the Pandavas. And let the man go unto Drupada, carrying costly presents for both the bridegrooms and the bride, and let him speak unto that monarch of thy increase of power and dignity arising from this new alliance with him. And, O monarch, let the man know also that both thyself and Duryodhana have become exceedingly glad in consequence of what hath happened. Let him say this repeatedly unto Drupada and Drishtadyumna. And let him speak also about the alliance as having been exceedingly proper and agreeable unto thee, and of thyself being worthy of it. And let the man repeatedly propitiate the sons of Kunti and those of Madri in proper words. And at thy command, O king, let plenty of ornaments of pure gold be given unto Draupadi. And let, O bull of Bharata's race, proper presents be given unto all the sons of Drupada. Let the messenger then propose the return of the Pandavas to Hastinapura, after the heroes will have been permitted, by Drupada, to come hither. Let Dusasana and Vikarna go out with a handsome train to receive them. And when they will have arrived at Hastinapura, let those foremost of men be received with affection by thee. And let them then be installed on their paternal throne, agreeably to the wishes of the people of the realm. This, O monarch of Bharata's race, is what I think should be thy behavior towards the Pandavas, who are to thee even as thy own sons. Vaisampayana continued. After Drona had ceased, Karna spake again. Both Bhishma and Drona have been pampered with wealth that is thine, and favors conferred by thee. They are also always regarded by thee as thy trusted friends. What can therefore be more amusing than that they both should give thee advice which is not for thy good? How can the wise approve that advice which is pronounced good by a person speaking with wicked intent, but taking care to conceal the wickedness of his heart? Indeed, in a season of distress, friends can neither benefit nor injure. Everyone's happiness or the reverse dependeth on destiny. He that is wise and he that is foolish, he that is young in years and he that is old, he that hath allies and he that hath none, all become, it is seen everywhere, happy or unhappy at times. It hath been heard by us that there was of old a king by name Amvuvicha. Having his capital at Rajagriha, he was the king of all the Magadha chiefs. He never attended to his affairs. All his exertion consisted in inhaling the air. All his affairs were in the hands of his minister. And his minister, named Mahakani, became the supreme authority in the state. Regarding himself all-powerful, he began to disregard the king. And the wretch himself appropriated everything belonging unto the king, his queens and treasures and sovereignty. But the possession of all these, instead of satisfying his avarice, only served to inflame him the more. Having appropriated everything belonging to the king, he even coveted the throne. But it hath been heard by us that with all his best endeavors, he succeeded not in acquiring the kingdom of the monarch, his master, even though the latter was inattentive to business and content with only breathing the air. What else can be said, O king, than that monarch's sovereignty was dependent on destiny? If therefore, O king, this kingdom be established in thee by destiny, it will certainly continue in thee, even if the whole world were to become thy enemy. If, however, destiny hath ordained otherwise, howsoever mayest thou strive, it will not last in thee. O learned one, remembering all this, judge of the honesty or otherwise of thy advisers. Ascertain also who amongst them are wicked, and who have spoken wisely and well. Vaisampayana continued. Hearing these words of Karna, Drona replied, As thou art wicked, it is evident thou sayest so in consequence of the wickedness of thy intent. It is for injuring the Pandavas that thou findest fault with us. But know, O Karna, what I have said is for the good of all and the prosperity of the Kuru race. If thou regardest all this as productive of evil, declare thyself what is for our good. If the good advice I have given be not followed, I think the Kurus will be exterminated in no time." Vaisampayana said, after Drona had ceased, Vidura spoke, saying, "O monarch, thy friends without doubt are saying unto thee what is for thy good. But as thou art unwilling to listen to what they say, their words scarcely find a place in thy ears. What that foremost one of Kuru's race, viz. Bhishma, the son of Santanu, hath said, is excellent and is for thy good. But thou dost not listen to it. The preceptor Drona also hath said much that is for thy good, which however Karna, the son of Radha, doth not regard to be such. But, O king, reflecting hard, I do not find anyone who is better a friend to thee than either of these two lions among men, Visma, Bhishma and Drona, or anyone who excels either of them in wisdom. These two, old in years, in wisdom and in learning, always regard thee, O king, and the sons of Pandu with equal eyes. Without doubt, O king of Bharata's race, they are both, in virtue and truthfulness, not inferior to Rama, the son of Dasaratha, and Gaya. Never before did they give thee any evil advice. Thou also, O monarch, hast never done them any injury. Why should therefore these tigers among men, who are ever truthful, give thee wicked advice, especially when thou hast never injured them? Endued with wisdom, these foremost of men, O king, will never give thee counsels that are crooked. O scion of Kuru's rate, this is my firm conviction that these two, acquainted with all rules of morality, will never, tempted by wealth, utter anything betraying a spirit of partisanship. What they have said, O Bharata, I regard highly beneficial to thee. Without doubt, O monarch, the Pandavas are thy sons as much as Duryodhana and others are. Those ministers, therefore, that give thee any counsel fraught with evil unto the Pandavas, do not really look to thy interests. If there is any partiality in thy heart, O king, for thy own children, they who by their counsel seek to bring it out, certainly do thee no good. Therefore, O king, these illustrious persons endued with great splendor have not, I think, said anything that leadeth to evil. Thou, however, dost not understand it. What these bulls among men have said regarding the invincibility of the Pandavas is perfectly true. Think not otherwise of it, O tiger among men. Blessed be thou. Can the handsome Dhananjaya, the son of Pandu, using the right and the left hand with equal activity, be vanquished in battle, even by Maghavat himself? Can the great Bhimasena of strong arms, possessing the might of 10,000 elephants, be vanquished in battle by the immortals themselves? Who also that desireth to live can overcome in battle the twins, Nagula and Sahadeva, like unto the sons of Yama himself, and well skilled in fight? How too can the eldest one of the Pandavas, in whom patience, mercy, forgiveness, truth, and prowess always live together, be vanquished? They who have Rama, Valadeva, as their ally, and Janardana, Krishna, as their counselor, and Satyaki, as their partisan, have already defeated everybody in war. They who have Drupada for their father-in-law, and Drupada's sons, the heroic brothers, viz. Drishtadyumna and others of Prishata's race, for their brothers-in-law, are certainly invincible. Remembering this, O monarch, and knowing that their claim to the kingdom is even prior to thine, behave virtuously towards them. The stain of calumny is on thee, O monarch, in consequence of that act of Purachana. Wash thyself of it now by a kindly behavior towards the Pandavas. This kindly behavior of thine, O monarch, towards the Pandavas, will be an act of great benefit to us, protecting the lives of us all that belong to Kuru's race, and leading to the growth of the whole Kshatriya order. We had formerly warred with King Drupada. If we can now secure him as an ally, it will strengthen our party. The Dasarhas, O king, are numerous and strong. Know where Krishna is, all of them must be, and where Krishna is, their victory also must be, O king, who unless cursed by the gods, would seek to effect that by means of war, which can be effected by conciliation. Hearing that the sons of Pritha are alive, The citizens and other subjects of the realm have become exceedingly glad and eager for beholding them. O monarch, act in a way that is agreeable to them. Duryodhana and Karna and Sakuni, the son of Suvala, are sinful, foolish, and young. Listen not to them. Possessed of every virtue thou art. I long ago told thee, O monarch, that for Duryodhana's fault, the subjects of this kingdom would be exterminated. Vaisampayana said, hearing these various speeches, Dhritarashtra said, the learned Bhishma, the son of Santanu, and the illustrious Rishi Drona, and thyself also, O Vidura, have said the truth, and what also is most beneficial to me. Indeed, as those mighty car warriors, the heroic sons of Kunti, are the children of Pandu, so are they, without doubt, my children according to the ordinance. And as my sons are entitled to this kingdom, so are the sons of Pandu certainly entitled to it. Therefore, hasten to bring hither the Pandavas along with their mother, treating them with affectionate consideration. O thou of Bharata's race, bring also Krishna of celestial beauty along with them. From sheer good fortune, the sons of Pritha are alive, and from good fortune alone, those mighty car warriors have obtained the daughter of Drupada. It is from good fortune alone that our strength hath increased, and it is from good fortune alone that Purachana hath perished. O thou of great splendor, it is from good fortune that my great grief hath been killed. Vaisampayana continued. Then Vidura, at the command of Dhritarashtra, repaired, O Bharata, unto Yajnasena and the Pandavas, and he repaired thither, carrying with him numerous jewels and various kinds of wealth for Draupadi and the Pandavas, and Yajnasena also. Arrived at Drupada's abode, Vidura, conversant with every rule of morality and deep in every science, properly accosted the monarch and waited upon him. Drupada received Vidura in proper form, and they both inquired after each other's welfare. Vidura then saw there the Pandavas and Vasudeva. As soon as he saw them, he embraced them from affection and inquired after their well-being. The Pandavas also, along with Vasudeva, in due order, worshipped Vidura of immeasurable intelligence. But Vidura, O king, in the name of Dhritarashtra, repeatedly inquired with great affection after their welfare. He then gave, O monarch, unto the Pandavas and Kunti and Draupadi, and unto Drupada and Drupada's sons, the gems and various kinds of wealth that the Kauravas had sent through him. Possessed of immeasurable intelligence, the modest Vidura then, in the presence of the Pandavas and Kashava, addressed the well-behaved Drupada thus: With thy ministers and sons, O monarch, listen to what I say. King Dhritarashtra, with ministers, sons, and friends, hath with a joyous heart, O king, repeatedly inquired after thy welfare. And, O monarch, he hath been highly pleased with this alliance with thee. So also, O king, Bhishma of great wisdom, the son of Santanu, with all the Kurus, inquired after thy welfare in every respect. Drona also of great wisdom, the son of Bharadwaja, and thy dear friend, embracing thee mentally, inquired of thy happiness. And, O king of Panchalas, Dhritarashtra, and all the Kurus, in consequence of this alliance with thee, regard themselves supremely blessed. O Yajnasena, the establishment of this alliance with thee hath made them happier than if they had acquired a new kingdom. Knowing all this, O monarch, permit the Pandavas to revisit their ancestral kingdom. The Kurus are exceedingly eager to behold the sons of Pandu. These bulls among men have been long absent from their kingdom. They, as well as Pritha, must be very eager to behold their city. And all the Kuru ladies and the citizens and our subjects are eagerly waiting to behold Krishna, the Panchala princess. This, therefore, is my opinion, O monarch, that thou shouldst, without delay, permit the Pandavas to go thither with their wife. And after the illustrious Pandavas, O king, will have received thy permission to go thither, I shall send information unto Dhritarashtra by quick messengers. Then, O king, will the Pandavas set out with Kunti and Krishna? Vaisampayana said, hearing these words of Vidura, Drupada said, it is even so, as thou, O Vidura of great wisdom, hast said. Venerable one, I too have been exceedingly happy in consequence of this alliance. It is highly proper that these illustrious princes should return to their ancestral kingdom, but it is not proper for me to say this myself. If the brave son of Kunti, viz. Yudhishthira, if Bhima and Arjuna, if these bulls among men, viz. The twins themselves desire to go, and if Rama, Valadeva, and Krishna, both acquainted with every rule of morality, be of the same mind, then let the Pandavas go thither. For these tigers among men, Rama and Krishna, are ever engaged in doing what is agreeable and beneficial to the sons of Pandu. Hearing this, Yudhishthira said, we are now, O monarch, with all our younger brothers, dependent on thee. We shall cheerfully do what thou art pleased to command. Vaisampayana continued. Then Vasudeva said, I am of opinion that the Pandavas should go, but we should all abide by the opinion of King Drupada, who is conversant with every rule of morality. Drupada then spoke, I certainly agree with what this foremost of men thinketh, having regard to the circumstances. For the illustrious sons of Pandu now are to me as they are, without doubt, to Vasudeva. Kunti's son Yudhishthira himself doth not seek the welfare of the Pandavas so earnestly as Kesava, that tiger among men. Vaisampayana continued, commanded by the illustrious Drupada, the Pandavas then, O king, and Krishna and Vidura, taking with them Krishna, the daughter of Drupada, and the renowned Kunti, journeyed towards the city called after the elephant, stopping at various places along the way for purposes of pleasure and enjoyment. King Dhritarashtra, hearing that those heroes had neared the capital, sent out the Kauravas to receive them. They who were thus sent out were Bharata, Vikarna of the great bow, and Chitrasena, and Drona, that foremost of warriors, and Kripa of Gautama's line. Surrounded by these, those mighty heroes, their splendor enhanced by that throng, slowly entered the city of Hastinapura. The whole city became radiant, as it were, with the gay throng of sightseers animated by curiosity. Those tigers among men gladdened the hearts of all who beheld them, and the Pandavas, dear unto the hearts of the people, heard, as they proceeded, various exclamations with the citizens, ever desirous of obeying the wishes of those princes, loudly uttered. Some exclaimed, here returns that tiger among men, conversant with all the rules of morality, and who always protects us as if we were his nearest relatives. And elsewhere they said, it seems that King Pandu, the beloved of his people, returneth today from the forest, doubtless to do what is agreeable to us. And there were some that said, what good is not done to us today when the heroic sons of Kunti come back to our town? If we have ever given away in charity, if we have ever poured libations of clarified butter on the fire, if we have any ascetic merit, let the Pandavas, by virtue of all those acts, stay in our town for 100 years. At last the Pandavas, on arriving at the place, worshipped the feet of Dhritarashtra, as also those of the illustrious Bhishma. They also worshipped the feet of everybody else that deserved that honor, and they inquired after the welfare of every citizen there present. At last, at the command of Dhritarashtra, they entered the chambers that had been assigned to them. After they had rested there for some time, they were summoned to the court by King Dhritarashtra and Bhishma, the son of Santanu. When they came, King Dhritarashtra, addressing Yudhishthira, said, listen, O son of Kunti, with thy brothers, to what I say. Repair ye to Pandavaprastha, so that no difference may arise again between you and your cousins. If you take up your quarters, there no one will be able to do you any injury. Protected by Partha, Arjuna, like the celestials by the thunderbolt, reside ye at Pandavaprastha, taking half of the kingdom. Vaisampayana continued, agreeing to what Dhritarashtra said, those bulls among men worshipping the king set out from Hastinapura, and content with half the kingdom, they removed to Pandava, which was in unreclaimed desert. Then those heroes of unfading splendor, viz., the Pandavas, with Krishna at their head, arriving there, beautified the place and made it a second heaven. And those mighty Car warriors, selecting with Dwaipayana's assistance a sacred and auspicious region, performed certain propitiatory ceremonies and measured out a piece of land for their city. Then, surrounded by a trench wide as the sea, and by walls reaching high up to the heavens and white as the fleecy clouds or the rays of the moon, that foremost of cities looked resplendent like Bhogavati, the capital of the nether kingdom, decked with the Nagas. And it stood adorned with palatial mansions and numerous gates, each furnished with a couple of panels resembling the outstretched wings of Garuda. And it was protected with gateways looking like the clouds and high as the Mandara mountains, and well furnished with numerous weapons of attack. The missiles of the foes could not make slightest impression on them, and they were almost covered with darts and other missiles like double-tongued snakes. The turrets along the walls were filled with armed men in course of training, and the walls were lined with numerous warriors along their whole length, and there were thousands of sharp hooks and satagnis, machines slaying a century of warriors, and numerous other machines on the battlements. There were also large iron wheels planted on them, and with all these was that foremost of cities adorned. The streets were all wide and laid out excellently, and there was no fear in them of accident. And decked with innumerable mansions, the city became like unto Amaravati, and came to be called Indraprastha, like unto Indra's city. In a delightful and auspicious part of the city rose the palace of the Pandavas, filled with every kind of wealth, and like unto the mansion of the celestial treasurer, Kuru, himself. And it looked like a mass of clouds charged with lightning. When the city was built, there came, O king, numerous Brahmanas, well acquainted with all the Vedas and conversant with every language, wishing to dwell there. And there came also unto that town numerous merchants from every direction, in the hope of earning wealth. There also came numerous persons well skilled in all the arts, wishing to take up their abode there. And around the city were laid out many delightful gardens, adorned with numerous trees bearing both fruits and flowers. There were amras, mango trees, and amaratakas, and kadamvas, and asokas, and champakas, and ponagas, and nagas, and lakuchas, and panasas, and salas and talas, palm trees, and tamalas, and vakulas, and ketakas, with their fragrant loads, beautiful and blossoming and grand, amalakas, with branches bent down with the weight of fruits, and lodras, and blossoming ancolas, and jamvus, blackberry trees, and patalas, and kunjakas, and atimuktas, and caraveras, and parichatas, and numerous other kinds of trees, always adorned with flowers and fruits, and alive with feathery creatures of various species. And those verdant groves always resounded with the notes of maddened peacocks and kokilas, blackbirds. And there were various pleasure houses, bright as mirrors, and numerous bowers of creepers, and charming and artificial hillocks, and many lakes full to the brim of crystal water, and delightful tanks, fragrant with lotuses and lilies, and adorned with swans and ducks and chakravakas, Brahmani ducks. And there were many delicious pools overgrown with fine aquatic plants. And there were also diverse ponds of great beauty and large dimension. And, O king, the joy of the Pandavas increased from day to day, in consequence of their residence in that large kingdom that was peopled with pious men. Thus, in consequence of the virtuous behavior of Bhishma and King Dhritarashtra towards them, the Pandavas took up their abode in Pandavaprastha. Adorned with those 5 mighty warriors, each equal unto Indra himself, that foremost of cities looked like Bhogavati, the capital of the nether kingdom, adorned with the Nagas. And, O monarch, having settled the Pandavas there, the heroic Krishna, obtaining their leave, came back with Rama to Dwaravati. Rajya-labha Parva. Janamejaya said, O thou possessed of ascetic wealth, what did those high-souled ones, my grandsires, the illustrious Pandavas, do? after obtaining the kingdom of Indraprastha? How did their wife Draupadi obey them all? How is it also that no dissensions arose amongst those illustrious rulers of men, all attached to one wife, Visvan Krishna? O thou of the wealth of asceticism, I wish to hear everything in detail regarding the behavior towards one another of those rulers of men after their union with Krishna. Vaisampayana said, "Those scorchers of foes, the Pandavas, having obtained their kingdom, at the command of Dhritarashtra, passed their days in joy and happiness at Pandavaprastha with Krishna and Yudhishthira, endued with great energy and ever adhering to truth, having obtained the sovereignty, virtuously ruled the land, assisted by his brothers, and the sons of Pandu, endued with great wisdom and devoted to truth and virtue, having vanquished all their foes, continued to live there in great happiness. And those bulls among men, seated on royal seats of great value, used to discharge all the duties of government. And one day, while all those illustrious heroes were so seated, there came unto them the celestial Rishi Narada in course of his wanderings. Beholding the Rishi, Yudhishthira offered him his own handsome seat. And after the celestial Rishi had been seated, the wise Yudhishthira duly offered him the arghya with his own hands. And the king also informed the Rishi of the state of his kingdom. The Rishi, accepting the worship, became well pleased, and eulogizing him with benedictions, commanded the king to take his seat. Commanded by the Rishi, the king took his seat. Then the king sent word unto Krishna in the inner apartments of the arrival of the illustrious one. Hearing of the Rishi's arrival, Draupadi, purifying herself properly, came with a respectful attitude to where Narada was with the Pandavas. The virtuous princess of Panchala, worshipping the celestial Rishi's feet, stood with joined hands before him, properly veiled. The illustrious Narada, pronouncing various benedictions on her, commanded the princess to retire. After Krishna had retired, the illustrious Rishi, addressing in private all the Pandavas, with Yudhishthira at their head, said, "The renowned princess of Panchala is the wedded wife of you all. Establish a rule amongst yourselves so that disunion may not arise amongst you." There were, in former days, celebrated throughout the three worlds, two brothers named Sunda and Upasunda, living together, and incapable of being slain by anybody unless each slew the other. They ruled the same kingdom, lived in the same house, slept on the same bed, sat on the same seat, and ate from the same dish. And yet they killed each for the sake of Tilottama. Therefore, O Yudhishthira, preserve your friendship for one another, and do that which may not produce disunion amongst you. On hearing this, Yudhishthira asked, "O great Muni, whose sons were asuras called Sunda and Upasunda, whence arose that dissension amongst them, and why did they slay each other? Whose daughter also was this Tilottama, for whose love the maddened brothers killed each other? Was she an Apsara, water nymph, or the daughter of any celestial? O thou whose wealth is asceticism, we desire, O Brahmana, to hear in detail everything as it happened. Indeed, our curiosity hath become great." Vaisampayana said, hearing these words of Yudhishthira, Narada replied, "O son of Pritha, listen with thy brothers to me as I recite this old story, O Yudhishthira, exactly as everything happened. In olden days, a mighty Daitya named Nikumba, endued with great energy and strength, was born in the race of the great Asura, Hiranyakasipu. Unto this Nikumba were born two sons called Sunda and Upasunda. Both of them were mighty Asuras, endued with great energy and terrible prowess. The brothers were both fierce and possessed of wicked hearts, and those Daityas were both of the same resolution, and ever engaged in achieving the same tasks and ends. They were ever sharers with each other in happiness as well as in woe. Each speaking and doing what was agreeable to the other, the brothers never were unless they were together, and never went anywhere unless together. Of exactly the same disposition and habits, they seemed to be one individual divided into two parts. Endued with great energy and ever of the same resolution in everything they undertook, the brothers gradually grew up always entertaining the same purpose. Desirous of subjugating the three worlds, the brothers, after due initiation, went to the mountains of Vindhya, and severe were the ascetic penances they performed there. Exhausted with hunger and thirst, with matted locks on their heads and attired in barks of trees, they acquired sufficient ascetic merit at length. Besmearing themselves with dirt from head to foot, living upon air alone, standing on their toes, they threw pieces of the flesh of their bodies into the fire. Their arms upraised and eye fixed, long was the period for which they observed their vows. And during the course of their ascetic penances, a wonderful incident occurred there. For the mountains of Vindhya, heated for a long course of years by the power of their ascetic austerities, began to emit vapor from every part of their bodies. And beholding the severity of their austerities, the celestials became alarmed. The gods began to cause numerous obstructions to impede the progress of their asceticism. The celestials repeatedly tempted the brothers by means of every precious possession and the most beautiful girls. The brothers broke not their vows. Then the celestials once more manifested, before the illustrious brothers, their powers of illusion. For it seemed their sisters, mothers, wives, and other relatives, with disordered hair and ornaments and robes, were running towards them in terror, pursued and struck by a Rakshasa with a lance in hand. And it seemed that the women implored the help of the brothers, crying, "Oh, save us!" But all this went for nothing, for firmly wedded thereto, the brothers did not still break their vows. And when it was found that all this produced not the slightest impression on any of the two, both the women and the Rakshasa vanished from sight. At last, the grandsire himself, the supreme lord, ever seeking the welfare of all, came unto those great asuras and asked them to solicit the boon they desired. Then the brothers Sunda and Upasunda, both of great prowess, beholding the grandsire, rose from their seats and waited with joined palms. And the brothers both said unto the god, "O grandsire, if thou hast been pleased with these our ascetic austerities, and art, O Lord, propitious unto us, then let us have knowledge of all weapons and of all powers of illusion. Let us be endued with great strength, and let us be able to assume any form at will. And last of all, let us also be immortal." Hearing these words of theirs, Brahman said, "Accept the immortality you ask for. You shall be given all that you desire. Solicit you some form of death by which you may still be equal unto the immortals. And since you have undergone these severe ascetic austerities from desire of sovereignty alone, I cannot confer on you the boon of immortality. You have performed your ascetic penances even for the subjugation of the three worlds. It is for this, O mighty Daityas, that I cannot grant you what you desire." Narada continued, "Hearing these words of Brahman, Sunda and Upasunda said, O grandsire, let us have no fear then from any created thing, mobile or immobile, in the three worlds, except only from each other." The grandsire then said, "I grant you what you have asked for, even this, your desire." And granting them this boon, the grandsire made them desist from their asceticism and returned to his own region. Then the brothers, those mighty Daityas, having received those several boons, became incapable of being slain by anybody in the universe. They then returned to their own abode. All their friends and relatives, beholding those Daityas of great intelligence, crowned with success in the matter of the boons they had obtained, became exceedingly glad. And Sunda and Upasunda then cut off their matted locks and wore coronets on their heads. Attired in costly robes and ornaments, they looked exceedingly handsome. They caused the moon to rise over their city every night, even out of his season. And friends and relatives gave themselves up to joy and merriment with happy hearts. Eat, feed, give, make merry, sing, drink. These were the sounds heard every day in every house. And here and there arose loud uproars of hilarity, mixed with clappings of hands, which filled the whole city of the Daityas, who, being capable of assuming any form at will, were engaged in every kind of amusement and sport, and scarcely noticed the flight of time, even regarding a whole year as a single day. Narada continued, "As soon as those festivities came to an end, the brothers Sunda and Upasunda, desirous of the sovereignty of the three worlds, took counsel and commanded their forces to be arranged. Obtaining the assent of their friends and relatives, of the elders of the Daitya race and of their ministers of state, and performing the preliminary rites of departure, they set out in the night when the constellation Magha was in the ascendant. The brothers set out with a large Daitya force, clad in mail and armed with maces and axes and lances and clubs. The Daitya heroes set out on their expedition with joyous hearts, the Charanas, bards, chanting auspicious panegyrics indicative of their future triumphs. Furious in war, the Daitya brothers, capable of going everywhere at will, ascended the skies and went to the region of the celestials. The celestials, knowing they were coming and acquainted also with the boons granted unto them by the supreme deity, left heaven and sought refuge in the region of Brahman. Endued with fierce prowess, the Daitya heroes soon subjugated the region of Indra, and vanquishing the diverse tribes of Yakshas and Rakshasas, and every creature ranging the skies, came away. Those mighty Ka warriors next subjugated the Nagas of the nether region, and then the inmates of the ocean, and then all the tribes of the Mlechchas. Desirous next of subjugating the whole earth, those heroes of irresistible sway, summoning their soldiers, issued these cruel commands. Brahmanas and royal sages on earth, with their libations and other food offered at grand sacrifices, increase the energy and strength of the gods, as also their prosperity. Engaged in such acts, they are the enemies of the Asuras. All of us, therefore, mustering together, should completely slaughter them off the face of the earth." Ordering their soldiers thus on the eastern shore of the great ocean, and entertaining such a cruel resolution, the Asura brothers set out in all directions, and those that were performing sacrifices, and the Brahmanas that were assisting at those sacrifices, the mighty brothers instantly slew, and slaughtering them with violence they departed for some other place, whilst their soldiers threw into the water the sacrificial fires that were in the asylums of Munis, with souls under complete control. The curses uttered by the illustrious rishis in wrath, rendered abortive by the boons granted by Brahman, affected not the Asura brothers. When the Brahmanas saw that their curses produced not the slightest effect, like shafts shot at stones they fled in all directions, forsaking their rites and vows. Even those rishis on earth that were crowned with ascetic success, and had their passions under complete control, and were wholly engrossed in meditation of the deity, from fear of the Asura brothers, fled like snakes at the approach of Vinata's son, Garuda, the snake-eater. The sacred asylums were all trodden down and broken. The sacrificial jars and vessels being broken, their sacred contents were scattered over the ground. The whole universe became empty, as if its creatures had all been stricken down during the season of general dissolution. And, O king, after the rishis had all disappeared and made themselves invisible, both the great Asuras, resolved upon their destruction, began to assume various forms. Assuming the forms of maddened elephants with temples rent from excess of juice, the Asura pair, searching out the rishis who had sheltered themselves in caves, sent them to the region of Yama. Sometimes becoming as lions and again as tigers, and disappearing the next moment. By these and other methods the cruel couple, seeing the rishis, slew them instantly. Sacrifice and study ceased, and kings and brahmanas were exterminated. The earth became utterly destitute of sacrifices and festivals, and the terrified people uttered cries of "Oh" and "Alas," and all buying and selling was stopped. All religious rites ceased, and the earth became destitute of sacred ceremonies and marriages. Agriculture was neglected, and cattle were no longer tended. Towns and asylums became desolate, and scattered over with bones and skeletons. The earth assumed a frightful aspect. All ceremonies in honor of the Pitris were suspended, and the sacred sound of Vashat, and the whole circle of auspicious rites ceased. The earth became frightful to behold. The sun and the moon, the planets and stars and constellations, and the other dwellers in the firmament, witnessing these acts of Sunda and Upasunda, grieved deeply. Subjugating all the points of heaven by means of such cruel acts, the Asura brothers took up their abode in Kurukshetra without a single rival. Narada continued, "Then the celestial rishis, the siddhas, and the high-souled rishis, possessing the attributes of tranquility and self-restraint, beholding that act of universal slaughter, were afflicted with great grief. With passions and senses and souls under complete control, they then went to the abode of the grandsire, moved by compassion for the universe. Arrived there, they beheld the grandsire seated with gods, siddhas and brahmashis around him. There were present that god of gods, viz. Mahadeva and Agni, accompanied by Vayu and Soma and Surya and Sakra, and rishis devoted to the contemplation of Brahma, and the Vaikanasas, the Valakilyas, the Vanaprasthas, the Marichipas, the Ajas, the Avimudas, and other ascetics of great energy. All those rishis were sitting with the grandsire when the celestial and other rishis, approaching Brahman with sorrowful hearts, represented unto him all the acts of Sunda and Upasunda, and they told the grandsire in detail everything that the Asura brothers had done and how they had done it and in what order. Then all the celestials and the great rishis pressed the matter before the grandsire. The grandsire, hearing everything they said, reflected for a moment and settled in his mind what he should do. Resolving to compass the destruction of the Asura brothers, he summoned Viswakarman, the celestial architect. Seeing Viswakarman before him, the grandsire possessed of supreme ascetic merit commanded him, saying, "Create thou a damsel capable of captivating all hearts." Bowing down unto the grandsire and receiving his command with reverence, the great artificer of the universe created a celestial maiden with careful attention. Viswakrit first collected all handsome features upon the body of the damsel he created. Indeed, the celestial maiden that he created was almost a mass of gems. And created with great care by Viswakarman, the damsel, in beauty, became unrivaled among the women of the three worlds. There was not even a minute part of her body which by its wealth of beauty could not attract the gaze of beholders. And like unto the embodied Shri herself, that damsel of extraordinary beauty captivated the eyes and hearts of every creature. And because she had been created with portions of every gem taken in minute measures, the grandsire bestowed upon her the name of Tilottama. And as soon as he started it into life, the damsel bowed to Brahman, and with joined palms said, "Lord of every created thing, what task am I to accomplish, and what have I been created for?" The grandsire answered, "Go, O Tilottama, unto the Asuras, Sunda and Upasunda. O amiable one, tempt them with thy captivating beauty. And O damsel, conduct thyself there in such a way that the Asura brothers may, in consequence of the wealth of thy beauty, quarrel with each other as soon as they cast their eyes upon thee." Narada continued, bowing unto the grandsire and saying, "So be it." The damsel walked round the celestial conclave. The illustrious Brahman was then sitting with face turned eastwards, and Mahadeva with face also towards the east, and all the celestials with faces northwards, and the rishis with faces towards all directions. While Tilottama walked round the conclave of the celestials, Indra and the illustrious Sthanu, Mahadeva, were the only ones that succeeded in preserving their tranquility of mind. But exceedingly desirous as Mahadeva was of beholding Tilottama, when the damsel, in her progress round the celestial conclave, was at his side, another face like a full-blown lotus appeared on the southern side of his body. And when she was behind him, another face appeared on the west. And when the damsel was on the northern side of the great god, a fourth face appeared on the northern side of his body. Mahadeva, who was eager to behold the damsel, came also to have 1,000 eyes, each large and slightly reddish, before, behind, and on his flanks. And it was thus that Sthanu, the great god, came to have 4 faces, and the slayer of Vala, 1,000 eyes. And as regards the mass of the celestials and the rishis, they turned their faces towards all directions, as Tilottama walked round them. Except the divine grandsire himself, the glances of those illustrious personages, even of all of them, fell upon Tilottama's body. And when Tilottama set out for the city of the Asuras, with the wealth of her beauty, all regarded the task as already accomplished. After Tilottama had gone away, the great god, who was the first cause of the universe, dismissed all the celestials and the rishis. Narada continued, "Meanwhile, the Asura brothers, having subjugated the earth, were without a rival. The fatigue of exertion gone, they, having brought the 3 worlds under equal sway, regarded themselves as persons that had nothing more to do. Having brought all the treasures of the gods, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, the Nagas, the Rakshasas, and the kings of the earth, the brothers began to pass their days in great happiness. When they saw they had no rivals in the 3 worlds, they gave up all exertion and devoted their time to pleasure and merriment like the celestials. They experienced great happiness by giving themselves up to every kind of enjoyment, such as women and perfumes and floral wreaths and viands and drinks and many other agreeable objects, all in profusion. In houses and woods and gardens, on hills and in forests, wherever they liked, they passed their time in pleasure and amusement, like the immortals. And it so happened that one day they went for purposes of pleasure to a tableland of the Vindhya range, perfectly level and stony, and overgrown with blossoming trees. After every object of desire, all of the most agreeable kind, had been brought, the brothers sat on an excellent seat, with happy hearts, and accompanied by handsome women. And those damsels, desirous of pleasing the brothers, commenced a dance in accompaniment to music, and sweetly chanted many a song in praise of the mighty pair. Meanwhile, Tilottama, attired in a single piece of red silk that exposed all her charms, came along, plucking wild flowers on her way. She advanced slowly to where those mighty Asuras were. The Asura brothers, intoxicated with the large portions they had imbibed, were smitten upon, beholding that maiden of transcendent beauty. Leaving their seats, they went quickly to where the damsel was. Both of them being under the influence of lust, each sought the maiden for himself. And Sunda seized that maid of fair brows by her right hand. Intoxicated with the boons they had obtained, with physical might, with the wealth and gems they had gathered from every quarter, and with the wine they had drunk, maddened with all these, and influenced by wishful desire, they addressed each other, each contracting his bow in anger. "She is my wife, and therefore your superior," said Sunda. "She is my wife, and therefore your sister-in-law," replied Upasunda. And they said unto each other, "She is mine, not yours." And soon they were under the influence of rage. Maddened by the beauty of the damsel, they soon forgot their love and affection for each other. Both of them, deprived of reason by passion, then took up their fierce maces, each repeating, "I was the first, I was the first." In taking her hand, struck the other. And the fierce Asuras, struck by each other with the mace, fell down upon the ground, their bodies bathed in blood, like 2 suns dislodged from the firmament. And beholding this, the women that had come there, and the other Asuras there present, all fled away, trembling in grief and fear, and took refuge in the nether regions. The grandsire himself of pure soul then came there, accompanied by the celestials and the great rishis. And the illustrious grandsire applauded Tilottama and expressed his wish of granting her a boon. The supreme deity, before Tilottama spoke, desirous of granting her a boon, cheerfully said, "O beautiful damsel, thou shalt roam in the region of the Adityas. Thy splendor shall be so great that nobody will ever be able to look at thee for any length of time." The grandsire of all creatures, granting this boon unto her, establishing the 3 worlds in Indra as before, returned to his own region. Narada continued, "It was thus that Asuras, ever united and inspired by the same purpose, slew each other in wrath for the sake of Tilottama. Therefore, from affection I tell you, ye foremost ones of Bharata's line, that if you desire to do anything agreeable to me, make some such arrangements that you may not quarrel with one another for the sake of Draupadi." Vaisampayana continued, "The illustrious Pandavas, thus addressed by the great Rishi Narada, consulting with one another, established a rule amongst themselves in the presence of the celestial Rishi himself, endued with immeasurable energy. And the rule they made was that when one of them would be sitting with Draupadi, any of the other four who would see that one thus must retire into the forest for 12 years, passing his days as a brahmacharin. After the virtuous Pandavas had established that rule amongst themselves, the great Muni Narada, gratified with them, went to the place he wished. Thus, O Janamejaya, did the Pandavas, urged by Narada, established a rule amongst themselves in regard to their common wife. And it was for this, O Bharata, that no dispute ever arose between them. Arjuna-vanavasa Parva. Vaisampayana said, "The Pandavas, having established such a rule, continued to reside there. By the prowess of their arms, they brought many kings under their sway. And Krishna became obedient unto all the 5 sons of Pritha, those lions among men, of immeasurable energy. Like the river Saraswati decked with elephants, which again take pleasure in that stream, Draupadi took great delight in her 5 heroic husbands, and they too took delight in her. And in consequence of the illustrious Pandavas being exceedingly virtuous in their practice, the whole race of Kurus, free from sin and happy, grew in prosperity. After some time, O king, it so happened that certain robbers lifted the cattle of a Brahmana, and while they were carrying away the booty, the Brahmana, deprived of his senses by anger, repaired to Kandavaprastha and began to reprove the Pandavas in accents of woe. The Brahmana said, "Ye Pandavas, from this your dominion, my kine are even now being taken away by force by despicable and wicked wretches. Pursue ye the thieves. Alas, the sacrificial butter of a peaceful Brahmana is being taken away by crows. Alas, the wretched jackal invadeth the empty cave of a lion. A king that taketh the 6th part of the produce of the land without protecting the subject hath been called by the wise to be the most sinful person in the whole world. The wealth of a Brahmana is being taken away by robbers. Virtue itself is sustaining a diminution. Take me up by the hand, ye Pandavas, for I am plunged in grief." Vaisampayana continued. Dhananjaya, the son of Kunti, heard those accents of the Brahmana, weeping in bitter grief. As soon as he heard those accents, he loudly assured the Brahmana, saying, "No fear." But it so happened that the chamber where the illustrious Pandavas had their weapons was then occupied by Yudhishthira, the just with Krishna. Arjuna therefore was incapable of entering it, or going alone with the Brahmana, though repeatedly urged to do either by the weeping accents of the Brahmana. Summoned by the Brahmana, Arjuna reflected with a sorrowful heart, "Alas, this innocent Brahmana's wealth is being robbed. I should certainly dry up his tears. He hath come to our gate, and is weeping even now. If I do not protect him, the king will be touched with sin in consequence of my indifference. Our own irreligiousness will be cited throughout the kingdom, and we shall incur a great sin. If, disregarding the king, I enter the chamber, without doubt I shall be behaving untruthfully towards the monarch without a foe. By entering the chamber again, I incur the penalty of an exile in the woods, but I must overlook everything. I care not if I have to incur sin by disregarding the king. I care not if I have to go to the woods and die there. Virtue is superior to the body, and lasteth after the body hath perished." Dhananjaya, arriving at this resolution, entered the chamber and talked with Yudhishthira. Coming out with the bow, he cheerfully told the Brahmana, "Proceed, O Brahmana, with haste, so that those wretched robbers may not go much ahead of us. I shall accompany thee and restore unto thee thy wealth that hath fallen into the hands of the thieves." Then Dhananjaya, capable of using both his arms with equal skill, armed with the bow and cased in mail, and riding in his war chariot decked with a standard, pursued the thieves, and piercing them with his arrows, compelled them to give up the booty. Benefiting the Brahmana, thus by making over to him his kine, and winning great renown, the hero returned to the capital. Bowing unto all the elders, and congratulated by everybody, Partha at last approached Yudhishthira, and addressing him said, "Give me leave, O Lord, to observe the vow I took. In beholding thee sitting with Draupadi, I have violated the rule established by ourselves. I shall therefore go into the woods, for this is even our understanding." Then Yudhishthira, suddenly hearing those painful words, became afflicted with grief, and said in an agitated voice, "Why?" A little while after, King Yudhishthira, in grief, said unto his brother Dhananjaya of curly hair, who never departed from his vows, these words, "O sinless one, if I am an authority worthy of regard, listen to what I say. O hero, full well do I know the reason why thou hadst entered my chamber, and didst what thou regardest to be an act disagreeable to me. But there is no displeasure in my mind. The younger brother may, without fault, enter the chamber where the elder brother sitteth with his wife. It is only the elder brother that acts against the rules of propriety by entering the room where the younger brother sitteth with his wife. Therefore, O thou of mighty arms, desist from thy purpose. Do what I say. Thy virtue hath sustained no diminution. Thou hast not disregarded me." Arjuna, hearing this, replied, "I have heard, even from thee, that quibbling is not permitted in the discharge of duty. I cannot waver from truth. Truth is my weapon." Vaisampayana continued, "Obtaining then the king's permission, Arjuna prepared himself for a forest life, and he went to the forest to live there for 12 years. Vaisampayana said, "When that spreader of the renown of Kuru's race, the strong-armed Arjuna, set out for the forest, Brahmanas, conversant with the Vedas, walked behind that illustrious hero to a certain distance, followed by Brahmanas conversant with the Vedas and their branches, and devoted to the contemplation of the Supreme Spirit, by persons skilled in music, by ascetics devoted to the deity, by reciters of Puranas, by narrators of sacred stories, by devotees leading celibate lives, by Vanaprasthas, by Brahmanas, sweetly reciting celestial histories, and by various other classes of persons of sweet speeches. Arjuna journeyed like Indra, followed by the Maruts. And, O thou of Bharata's race, that bull among the Bharatas saw, as he journeyed, many delightful and picturesque forests, lakes, rivers, seas, provinces, and waters. At length, on arriving at the source of the Ganges, the mighty hero thought of settling there. Listen now, O Janamejaya, to a wonderful feat which that foremost of the sons of Pandu, of high soul, did while living there. When that son of Kunti, O Bharata, and the Brahmanas who had followed him took up their residence in that region, the latter performed innumerable Agnihotras, sacrificial rites by igniting the sacred fire. And, O king, in consequence of those learned vow-observing and illustrious Brahmanas who never deviated from the right path, daily establishing and igniting with mantras on the banks of that sacred stream, after the performance of their ablutions, fires for their sacrifices, and pouring libations of clarified butter into the same, and worshipping those fires with offerings of flowers, that region itself where the Ganges entered the plains became exceedingly beautiful. One day, that bull amongst the Pandavas, while residing in that region in the midst of those Brahmanas, descended, as usual, into the Ganges to perform his ablutions. After his ablutions had been over, and after he had offered oblations of water unto his deceased ancestors, he was about to get up from the stream to perform his sacrificial rites before the fire, when the mighty armed hero, O king, was dragged into the bottom of the water by Ulupi, the daughter of the king of the Nagas, urged by the god of desire. And it so happened that the son of Pandu was carried into the beautiful mansion of Kauravya, the king of the Nagas. Arjuna saw there a sacrificial fire ignited for himself. Beholding that fire, Dhananjaya, the son of Kunti, performed his sacrificial rites with devotion, and Agni was much gratified with Arjuna for the fearlessness with which that hero had poured libations into his manifest form. After he had thus performed his rites before the fire, the son of Kunti, beholding the daughter of the king of the Nagas, addressed her smilingly and said, "O handsome girl, what an act of rashness hast thou done! O timid one, whose is this beautiful region? Who art thou, and whose daughter?" Hearing these words of Arjuna, Ulupi answered, "There is a Naga of the name of Kauravya, born in the line of Airavata. I am, O prince, the daughter of that Kauravya, and my name is Ulupi. O tiger among men, beholding thee descend into the stream to perform thy ablutions, I was deprived of reason by the god of desire. O sinless one, I am still unmarried. Afflicted as I am by the god of desire on account of thee, O thou of Kuru's race, gratify me today by giving thyself up to me." Arjuna replied, "Commanded by King Yudhishthira, O amiable one, I am undergoing the vow of brahmacharin for 12 years. I am not free to act in any way I like. But O ranger of the waters, I am still willing to do thy pleasure, if I can. I have never spoken an untruth in my life. Tell me therefore, O Naga maid, how I may act so that, while doing thy pleasure, I may not be guilty of any untruth or breach of duty." Ulupi answered, "I know, O son of Pandu, why thou wanderest over the earth, and why thou hast been commanded to lead the life of a brahmacharin by the superior. Even this was the understanding to which all of you had been pledged, viz., that amongst you all owning Drupada's daughter as your common wife, he who would from ignorance enter the room where one of you would be sitting with her, should lead the life of a brahmacharin in the woods for 12 years. The exile of anyone amongst you, therefore, is only for the sake of Draupadi. Thou art but observing the duty arising from that vow. Thy virtue cannot sustain any diminution by acceding to my solicitation. Then again, O thou of large eyes, it is a duty to relieve the distressed. Thy virtue suffereth no diminution by relieving me. O, if, by this act, O Arjuna, thy virtue doth suffer a small diminution, thou wilt acquire great merit by saving my life. Know me for thy worshipper, O Partha. Therefore, yield thyself up to me. Even this, O Lord, is the opinion of the wise, viz., that one should accept a woman that wooeth. If thou do not act in this way, know that I will destroy myself. O thou of mighty arms, earn great merit by saving my life. I seek thy shelter, O best of men. Thou protectest always, O son of Kunti, the afflicted and the masterless. I seek thy protection, weeping in sorrow. I woo thee, being filled with desire. Therefore, do what is agreeable to me. It behoveth thee to gratify my wish by yielding thyself up to me." Vaisampayana said, thus addressed by the daughter of the king of the Nagas, the son of Kunti did everything she desired, making virtue his motive. The mighty Arjuna, spending the night in the mansion of the Naga, rose with the sun in the morning. Accompanied by Ulupi, he came back from the palace of Kauravya to the region where the Ganges entereth the plains. The chaste Ulupi, taking her leave there, returned to her own abode, and, O Bharata, she granted unto Arjuna a boon making him invincible in water, saying, "Every amphibious creature shall, without doubt, be vanquishable by thee." Vaisampayana said, then the son of the wielder of the thunderbolt narrated everything unto those Brahmanas, residing with him there, set out for the breast of Himavat. Arriving at the spot called Agasthyavata, he next went to Vasishtha's peak. Thence, the son of Kunti proceeded to the peak of Brigu. Purifying himself with ablutions and other rites there, that foremost of the Kurus gave away unto Brahmanas many thousands of cows and many houses. Thence that best of men proceeded to the sacred asylum called Hiranyavindu. Performing his ablutions there, that foremost of the sons of Pandu saw many holy regions. Descending from those heights, that chief of men, O Bharata, accompanied by the Brahmanas, journeyed towards the east, desiring to behold the regions that lay in that direction. That foremost one of Kuru's race saw many regions of sacred waters, one after another. And beholding in the forest of Naimisha the delightful river Utpalini, full of lotuses, and the Nanda and the Aparananda, the far-famed Kosiki, and the mighty rivers Gaya and Ganga, and all the regions of sacred water, he purified himself, O Bharata, with the usual rites, and gave away many cows unto Brahmanas. Whatever regions of sacred waters and whatever other holy palaces there were in Vanga and Kalinga, Arjuna visited all of them. Seeing them all and performing proper ceremonies, he gave away much wealth. Then, O Bharata, all those Brahmanas following the son of Pandu bade him farewell at the gate of the kingdom of Kalinga and desisted from proceeding with him any further. The brave Dhananjaya, the son of Kunti, obtaining their leave, went towards the ocean, accompanied by only a few attendants. Crossing the country of the Kalingas, the mighty one proceeded, seeing on his way diverse countries and sacred spots, and diverse delightful mansions and houses. Beholding the Mahendra mountain, adorned with the ascetics, residing there, he went to Manipura, proceeding slowly along the seashore. Beholding all the sacred waters and other holy places in that province, the strong-armed son of Pandu at last went, O king, to the virtuous Chitravahana, the ruler of Manipura. The king of Manipura had a daughter of great beauty named Chitrangada, and it so happened that Arjuna beheld her in her father's palace, roving at pleasure. Beholding the handsome daughter of Chitravahana, Arjuna desired to possess her. Going unto the king, her father, he represented unto him what he sought. He said, Give away unto me thy daughter, O king. I am an illustrious Kshatriya's son. Hearing this, the king asked him, Whose son art thou? Arjuna replied, I am Dhananjaya, the son of Pandu and Kunti. The king, hearing this, spoke unto him these words in sweet accents. There was in our race a king of the name of Prabhanjana, who was childless. To obtain a child, he underwent severe ascetic penances. By his severe asceticism, O Partha, he gratified that god of gods, Mahadeva, the husband of Uma, that supreme lord holding the mighty bow called Pinaka. The illustrious lord granted him the boon that each successive descendant of his race should have one child only. In consequence of that boon, only one child is born unto every successive descendant of this race. All my ancestors, one after another, had each a male child. I, however, have only a daughter to perpetuate my race. But, O bull amongst men, I ever look upon this daughter of mine as my son. O bull of Bharata's race, I have duly made her a putrika. Therefore, one amongst the sons that may be begotten upon her by thee, O Bharata, shall be the perpetuator of my race. That son is the dower for which I may give away my daughter. O son of Pandu, if them choosest, thou canst take her upon this understanding. Hearing these words of the king, Arjuna accepted them all, saying, So be it. Taking Chitravahana's daughter as his wife, the son of Kunti resided in that city for 3 years. When Chitrangada at last gave birth to a son, Arjuna embraced that handsome princess affectionately, and taking leave of the king, her father, he set out on his wanderings again. Vaisampayana said, Then that bull of Bharata's race went to the sacred waters on the banks of the southern ocean, all adorned with the ascetics residing there. And there lay scattered 5 such regions where also dwelt many ascetics. But those 5 waters themselves were shunned by all of them. Those sacred waters were called Agastya, and Saubhadra, and Pauloma of great holiness, and Karantama of great propitiousness, yielding the fruits of a horse sacrifice unto those that bathed there, and Bharadwaja, that great washer of sins. That foremost one among the Kurus, beholding those 5 sacred waters, and finding them uninhabited, and ascertaining also that they were shunned by the virtuous ascetics dwelling around, asked those pious men with joined hands, saying, Why, O ascetics, are these 5 sacred waters shunned by utterers of Brahma? Hearing him, the ascetics replied, There dwell in these waters 5 large crocodiles, which take away the ascetics that may happen to bathe in them. It is for this, O son of Kuru's race, that these waters are shunned. Vaisampayana continued, Hearing these words of the ascetics, that foremost of men endued with mighty arms, though dissuaded by them, went to behold those waters. Arrived at the excellent sacred water called Saubhadra, after a great rishi, the brave scorcher of all foes suddenly plunged into it to have a bath. As soon as that tiger among men had plunged into the water, a great crocodile, that was in it, seized him by the leg. But the strong-armed Dhananjaya, the son of Kunti, that foremost of all men endued with might, seized that struggling ranger of the water and dragged it forcibly to the shore. But dragged by the renowned Arjuna to the land, that crocodile became transformed into a beautiful damsel bedecked with ornament. O king, that charming damsel of celestial form seemed to shine for her beauty and complexion. Dhananjaya, the son of Kunti, beholding that strange sight, asked that damsel with a pleased heart, Who art thou, O beautiful one? Why hast thou been a ranger of the waters? Why also didst thou commit such a dreadful sin? The damsel replied, saying, I am, O mighty armed one, an apsara that sported in the celestial woods. I am, O mighty one, Varga by name, and ever dear unto the celestial treasurer, Kuvera. I have 4 other companions, all handsome and capable of going everywhere at will. Accompanied by them, I was one day going to the abode of Kuvera. On the way, we beheld a Brahmana of rigid vows and exceedingly handsome, studying the Vedas in solitude. The whole forest, in which he was sitting, seemed to be covered with his ascetic splendor. He seemed to have illuminated the whole region like the sun himself. Beholding his ascetic devotion of that nature and his wonderful beauty, we alighted in that region in order to disturb his meditations. Myself and Saurabhi and Samichi and Budvuda and Lata approached that Brahmana, O Bharata, at the same time. We began to sing and smile and otherwise tempt that Brahmana. But, O hero, that Brahmana, youth, set not his heart even once upon us. His mind fixed on pure meditation. That youth of great energy suffered not his heart to waver. O bull among Kshatriyas, the glance he cast upon us was one of wrath, and he said, staring at us, Becoming crocodiles, range ye the waters for 100 years. Vaisampayana said, Varga continued, We were then, O foremost one of Bharata's race, deeply distressed at this curse. We sought to propitiate that Brahmana of ascetic wealth that departed not from his vow. Addressing him, we said, inflated with a sense of our beauty and youth, and urged by the god of desire, we have acted very improperly. It behooveth thee, O Brahmana, to pardon us. Truly, O Brahmana, it was death to us that we had at all come hither to tempt thee of rigid vows and ascetic wealth. The virtuous, however, have said that women should never be slain. Therefore, grow thou in virtue. It behoveth thee not to slay us so. O thou that art conversant with virtue, it hath been said that a Brahmana is ever the friend of every creature. O thou of great prosperity, let this speech of the wise become true. The eminent always protect those that seek protection at their hands. We seek thy protection. It behoveth thee to grant us pardon. Vaisampayana continued, thus addressed, that Brahmana of virtuous soul and good deeds and equal in splendor, O hero, unto the sun or the moon, became propitious unto them. And the Brahmana said, The words 100 and 100,000 are all indicative of eternity. The word 100, however, as employed by me, is to be understood as a limited period and not indicative of a period without end. Ye shall therefore, becoming crocodiles, seize and take away men, for only 100 years as explained by me. At the end of that period, an exalted individual will drag you all from water to the land. Then ye will resume your real forms. Never have I spoken an untruth even in jest. Therefore, all that I have said must come to pass, and those sacred waters, within which I assign you your places, will, after you will have been delivered by that individual, become known all over the world by the name of Nari Tirthas, or sacred waters, connected with the sufferings and the deliverance of females. And all of them shall become sacred and sin-cleansing in the eyes of the virtuous and the wise. Vaisampayana continued. Varga, then addressing Arjuna, finished her discourse, saying, Hearing these words of the Brahmana, we saluted him with reverence and walked round him. Leaving that region, we came away with heavy hearts, thinking as we proceeded, where shall we all soon meet with that man who will give us back our own shapes after our transformation? As we were thinking of it, in almost a moment, O Bharata, we beheld even the eminent celestial Rishi Narada. Beholding that Rishi of immeasurable energy, our hearts were filled with joy. Saluting him with reverence, O Partha, we stood before him with blushing faces. He asked of us the cause of our sorrow, and we told him all. Hearing what had happened, the Rishi said, In the lowlands bordering on the southern ocean, there are 5 regions of sacred water. They are delightful and eminently holy. Go ye thither without delay. That tiger among men, Dhananjaya, the son of Pandu of pure soul, will soon deliver you, without doubt, from this sad plight. O hero, hearing the Rishi's words, all of us came hither. O sinless one, true it is that I have today been delivered by thee, but those 4 friends of mine are still within the other waters here. O hero, do a good deed by delivering them also. Vaisampayana continued, Then, O monarch, that foremost of the Pandavas, endued with great prowess, cheerfully delivered all of them from that curse. Rising from the waters, they all regained their own forms. Those Apsaras then, O king, all looked as before. Freeing those sacred waters from the danger for which they had been notorious, and giving the Apsaras leave to go where they chose, Arjuna became desirous of once more beholding Chitrangada. He therefore proceeded towards the city of Manipura. Arrived there, he beheld on the throne the son he had begotten upon Chitrangada, and who was called by the name of Vabruvahana. Seeing Chitrangada once more, Arjuna proceeded, O monarch, towards the spot called Gokana. Vaisampayana said, Then Arjuna, of immeasurable prowess, saw, one after another, all the sacred waters and other holy places that were on the shores of the Western Ocean. Vibhatsu reached the sacred spot called Prabhasa. When the invisible Arjuna arrived at that sacred and delightful region, the slayer of Madhu, Krishna, heard of it. Madhava soon went there to see his friend, the son of Kunti. Krishna and Arjuna met together and, embracing each other, inquired after each other's welfare. Those dear friends, who were none else than the rishis Nara and Narayana of old, sat down. Vasudeva asked Arjuna about his travels, saying, Why, O Pandava, art thou wandering over the earth, beholding all the sacred waters and other holy places? Then Arjuna told him everything that had happened. Hearing everything, that mighty hero of Vrishni's race said, This is as it should be. And Krishna and Arjuna, having sported as they liked for some time at Prabhasa, went to the Raivataka mountain to pass some days there. Before they arrived at Raivataka, that mountain had, at the command of Krishna, been well adorned by many artificers. Much food also had, at Krishna's command, been collected there. Enjoying everything that had been collected there for him, Arjuna sat with Vasudeva to see the performances of the actors and the dancers. Then the high-souled Pandava, dismissing them all with proper respect, laid himself down on a well-adorned and excellent bed. As the strong-armed one lay on that excellent bed, he described unto Krishna everything about the sacred waters, the lakes and the mountains, the rivers and the forests he had seen. While he was speaking of these, stretched upon that celestial bed, sleep, O Janamajaya, stole upon him. He rose in the morning, awakened, by sweet songs and melodious notes of the veena, guitar, and the panegyrics and benedictions of the bards. After he had gone through the necessary acts and ceremonies, he was affectionately accosted by him of the Vrishni race. Riding upon a golden car, the hero then set out for Dwaraka, the capital of the Yadavas. And, O Janamejaya, for honoring the son of Kunti, the city of Dwaraka was well adorned, even all the gardens and houses within it. The citizens of Dwaraka, desirous of beholding the son of Kunti, began to pour eagerly into the public thoroughfares by hundreds of thousands. In the public squares and thoroughfares, hundreds and thousands of women, mixing with the men, swelled the great crowd of the Bhojas, the Vrishnis, and the Anthakas that had collected there. Arjuna was welcomed with respect by all the sons of Bhojas, the Vrishnis, and the Anthakas, and he, in his turn, worshipped those that deserved his worship, receiving their blessings. The hero was welcomed with affectionate reception by all the young men of the Yadava tribe. He repeatedly embraced all that were equal to him in age. Wending then to the delightful mansion of Krishna that was filled with gems and every article of enjoyment, he took up his abode there with Krishna for many days.